So just going over a quick flight from more or less the VOR all the way across Santa Barbara, coming into West Bowl here. And if I'm above the height of West Bowl, I just keep moving, especially with clouds. Makes it pretty simple. Coming into Cathedral now. Again, if I'm about this height, 3/4 of the way up the side, I'll just keep going. I'm aiming for this lower point in front of the tit, and I just kind of ride it up into the tit. You're kind of behind the power lines here, but the tit seems to work, and worst case scenario, you can run out to the road cut. Today, because of the clouds, I didn't spend too much time looking for height at the tit. I wanted to get to the clouds first. You can see Steph there quickly flying by. And I go here to get more altitude because now I can step back. I don't want to go to the antenna farm if I don't have to. I want to go back to the thermal factory. Just making some turns right here on the sage, and nice and plenty of clouds. Pretty simple. And then here, on a blue day, 4,200 is a good number, but with the clouds, I went a little lower. Had a nice buoyant line. Kraken just passed under me. Break for some water. There's shadow. Again, if I'm high above shadow, I'm just going to keep moving. Coming into Montecito, if you hit a boomer there, you can take it, or I can take it, but otherwise I just go to Secret Bowl because I want to go as far as possible before transition. So stop here, climb up, and ideally here, there's a bunch of points you can head to on layer cake, but by coming into this first spine, I just want to get back up to the ridge height. I don't need much more than that. So maybe take 2 or 3 extra turns there, but that's okay. If you get a good one here, you take it again. The ideal is if you come right over the top of the road cut. So you can see there, right to the road cut. Had a nice climb here, up to clouds. Real pretty. On the way to Castle. First point of Castle, same thing. If I can get to the spine, great, but I want to come into this flat point in the middle. And this is kind of the best climb I find normally at Castle. It's the most put together one, that middle spine. Take as much as I can here because I want to do a long glide. Oftentimes that last point on Castle can be a little lee side. And it's okay to be below ridge height here, all the way to the last point. So you can see I go to this last point here. I only do a couple turn or one turn there, but often I'll wait longer if I'm lower. And then these next few points are all very similar. You just kind of quick hits and move. I rarely go all the way to that back ridge. I just go from front point to front point, or middle point to middle point. And finally, let's transition to Snowball's Daddy. Snowball's Daddy works super well, and if it doesn't, you've got to glide out to at least some good landings. So that always works well above Carpinteria. After this, it starts to get a little bit deeper. I'm not showing it very well in the film here because I cropped it, but coming right over the top of the power lines, kind of above 41, 42 is good. And then I will often stop at that last point on the power lines, but here I'm just trying to come out to noon. And I came out to the front today because I felt a little bit of north. The power lines are a low point, so you often get pushed out to the front. But there were clouds on the back line, and we weren't getting too high. Anything below 5,500, I normally take the back line. This is coming into West Divide now. West Divide is a place to be really patient. I find that I've very rarely not been able to get to the peak height here. And once you get to peak height, with west wind, you almost always have a glide to the base of White Ledge. So here I'm going back a little bit to East Divide. The goal being if I get up high enough, I'll go behind White Ledge. We're not really getting that high. I forget the exact altitudes here, but below 6. So if that's the case, then yeah, just go straight to White Ledge. This is a kind of a long transition, but as long as you come in at least to that front point, you can see off the right side there, it's pretty common to get back up. Often I'll kind of surf this white slab here, But today there's clouds if I just keep going. So I just kept going to the clouds. Dylan and Blake are there just below me. Nice cloud base. That was probably the best cloud of the day. And then it's a pretty long glide. I normally will shoot back to bump 3 from White Ledge. Even at 5,000 feet, you can make bump 3 pretty easily. And the winds are coming through the gap in front of you, so it's pretty easy to get kind of pulled into the gap here, where the nut house is. You can see me messing around a lot here. I'm just climbing out of the harness to take a leak. And then there's a couple ways to do this. I did get a climb at bump 1 there, crossing the 33. If you're low, just go to the nut house. It's just off the left side of the video. But this day I was able to go straight to spine 1. There was a little cut there. So spine 1, I take as much altitude as I can here, because often it's the only climb you need. And only climb you need in order to get to Chief's spine, that is. And then just kind of gliding along. This front ridge of Nordoff can be really lifty, so I just kind of keep cruising through it, soaring on it. If you get a boomer, you take it. Otherwise, just keep moving. Got a little bit of a climb here, and part of that is just that the glides this day weren't they were kind of sinky. And this middle point between Nordoff Ridge and Chiefs, I often find a climb there. But big blue day, and coming into Chiefs, this is Twin Peaks in the front of Chiefs, and kind of challenging here. It was pretty windy, 12 to 15 miles an hour wind, so it took a little while to get up. Kind of the only spaghetti of the day really was through this next section. Lots of blue, but I'm just trying to make it to those clouds that you can see coming off of Puckers. So quick glide over here, coming into West Repeater. And it was windy enough to where it was just kind of blowing me to East Repeater. And I often find that East Repeater, you can soar it, you can hang out on it. So I was going to try and spend a little bit more time here to get up. But again, the altitude's not super important here with the west wind. You just need to be, a couple hundred over, pushing back upwind there to try and find that climb again. And yeah, just a couple hundred over will get you to Boyd's. So this next point, Boyd's, often works pretty well, and it's got a spine that leads back to Puckers, which is the lower corner of the Topas. So I ended up finding a really good climb here. Just letting it drift me, going straight downwind off the climb, which I don't often do, just based off of the sink behind most climbs. But here it seemed to work out pretty well. You can see the clouds kind of forming and dissipating in front of me. Just taking my time. Push to the clouds, get another core. Push to the clouds, get another core. So up to 69 there, which is plenty. Anything above, 67 or so, you can normally come in pretty high on Santa Paula Ridge. This is a good transition to check the winds and Fillmore and whatnot. If it's really cranking, you don't want to go over there, you could always land at Thomas Aquinas, just below you. So coming into Santa Paula Peak, I just go straight up the spine until you find something. Oftentimes you get climbs off of either side. They're mostly coming off of the right side of this, but on this day, as I climbed up, I started to feel some northwest wind actually. So you can see I'm kind of crabbing a little bit to the left, to the north. This is actually to the peak now. And then on glide. People do this different ways. You can glide towards Oat, you can glide towards the F, or you can glide over town. Oftentimes over town you can find a nice thermal. Oat works and you can maintain, but on a day that's, you're not getting above 7 I never got above 7, so if you're not getting above 6 ever really, you're just going to get stuck at Oat. You're just going to be there and probably end your flight there. coming right over town, you can find that thermal, but you don't always find it. So for me, I just kind of cut the corner and head straight to the Fillmore F. You can see the F kind of showing up in the bottom of the screen. And just fly right over the F. There's plenty of LZs just off the right side, some big power lines, but it's pretty worth it just to give it a shot. This climb always seems to kind of come together if you're early enough in the day. Wind here was kind of strong, maybe 15 plus miles an hour. Just very drifty, patient climb. In order to cross the valley here, you normally want about 45 or so. You can probably go a little less. But on this day, I didn't really want to cross that valley. It just seemed like it was going to be a little bit too cross. So I just went on glide out towards Piru. I did end up flying a little farther this day, but this is where my GoPro ran out of battery. So that's what you get to Piru.